Lonely lighthouse. Check stormy night. Check something undead washing ashore. Check. This is definitely one of those spooky story collections. Now, if you like your scary stories with a little bit of lore and a hefty dose of heart-pounding suspense, then, my friend, these spine-tingling tailies are for you. So turn off the lights, grab a blanket, cuddle up with some marshmallows and hot chocolate, because we're about to take a deep dive into the chilling realm where the sea meets the supernatural. Let's go. Lighthouse No. 84. The old caretaker of Lighthouse No. 84 was losing his mind. It had been years since another lighthouse keeper had relieved him of his duties. Years of loneliness and solitude were wearing on him, and now the nights stretched before him, endless and dark, punctuated only by the eerie cry of gulls and the mournful crash of waves against the rocks below. He was sure that no human soul would ever set foot here again until he retired, or perhaps even worse. One day, as he was polishing the giant lens of the lighthouse, the familiar beam flickered and died. Darkness descended upon the tower, and the old man felt a chill crawl down his spine. It wasn't supposed to happen until morning. As he scrambled to fix the generator, the old man heard a noise at the base of the tower, a scratching and a shuffling sound. Dismissing it as some prankster teenagers out for some cheap thrills, he quickly got to work. But as the minutes passed, the sound grew louder and more insistent. Finally, when he looked out through the glass panes, what he saw froze the blood in his veins. Something large and dark was dragging itself up the rocky coastline, inching closer to the lighthouse with an unnerving slowness. The creature was hunched over, its limbs twisted at unnatural angles, and as it drew nearer, he could make out the shambling forms of more creatures like it rising from the depths, their eyes glowing with an eerie green light in the darkness. As they climbed the rocks, the old man watched in horrified fascination, his heart pounding in his chest. They were relentless, these creatures, as if driven by some dark and primal instinct. Finally, they reached the top of the cliffs, their beady eyes fixed on the lighthouse. In their leader's hand, the old man recognized a lantern, the same type used by lighthouse keepers. But how could this be? He was the last lighthouse keeper. Or was he? He raced up the spiral staircase of the lighthouse, adrenaline pumping through his veins. From the safety of the lamp room, he watched them approach, their moans carried on the wind, their forms growing larger with every passing moment. And that's when he saw their faces, or what was left of them. Their flesh was rotting, their eyes vacant, soulless. They were dead. The old man felt a surge of terror mixed with morbid curiosity. Who were these creatures? Why had they come? He knew only one thing. He had to get out of there. He grabbed his oil-stained jacket and his trusty revolver, the only weapon he had against the encroaching horde. He ran down the lighthouse, each step echoing in the vast emptiness, and emerged onto the narrow ledge that hugged the cliff face. Below him, the sea roared, a hungry beast waiting to devour. Behind him, the lighthouse loomed, a silent sentinel against the coming storm. He turned to face the creatures, their moans and groans echoing in his ears. He raised his revolver, his finger tightening on the trigger. "Get away," he shouted, his voice hoarse with fear and exhaustion. "Get away from me." They didn't listen. They kept coming, their eyes fixed on him, their hands outstretched. The first shot hit one of the creatures in the shoulder. It let out a guttural roar and lunged forward. The old man jumped back, his foot catching on a loose rock. He lost his balance and fell. He screamed, the wind snatching away his cry for help. As he plummeted toward the churning sea below, he saw the creatures gathering at the edge of the cliff, their glowing eyes staring at him, their hands still outstretched. The water rushed up to meet him, cold and unforgiving, and then everything went black. When the creature carrying the lantern reached the spot where the old man had fallen, it paused, its head tilting as if listening to something. Then, as if driven by some unseen force, it turned and disappeared into the swirling mists, its companions following close behind. On the mainland, a young couple strolled along the beach, their laughter echoing in the twilight. They stopped to admire the ruins of an old lighthouse, its broken tower silhouetted against the dying sun. As they walked closer, they noticed a strange sight, a lantern lying abandoned on the sand, its light extinguished. They picked it up, its weight surprising them, and as they turned it over, they saw the inscription on the back, "Lighthouse Keeper's Last Stand." They exchanged a nervous glance. Was it just an old wives' tale, or was there something sinister lurking in the shadows of the crumbling lighthouse? Lightless, the Coast Guard vessel cut through the choppy waves, its searchlight piercing the thick fog. Inside, a grizzled captain gripped the helm, his face etched with worry. For hours, they had been combing the coastline for any sign of the missing lighthouse keeper. But so far, nothing. Suddenly, the radio crackled to life, breaking the tense silence. "This is Coast Guard. Come in, lighthouse keeper. Do you copy?" Static filled the air, then a voice, weak and distorted, "H-E-L-P. The captain's heart skipped a beat. They had a lead, guiding the ship by the light from the mobile beacon. They raced towards the lighthouse, the cryptic message echoing in their ears. As they neared the shore, they saw a dark figure standing at the edge of the cliffs, waving frantically. Relief washed over the captain, but it quickly turned to shock. The figure stumbled and fell, collapsing on the jagged rocks below. The Coast Guard men rushed to his aid, but it was too late. The man was dead. His skin was as white as bone, his eyes wide and vacant, his lips pulled back in a silent scream. Then they saw the note clutched in his hand, the words scrawled in a shaky hand. "They're inside." Before anyone could react, the ground beneath their feet gave way. They were falling. The lighthouse loomed over them, its windows like vacant eyes staring into their souls. The Coast Guard men stumbled out of the wreckage, dazed and confused. They had barely escaped with their lives. But as they surveyed the damage to the lighthouse, they realized the truth. The lighthouse was empty. There was no sign of the missing lighthouse keeper or any other living soul. The radio was not working, its antenna dangling precariously from the wall. And then they saw a single sheet of paper lying on the floor. They unfolded it slowly, their faces paling as they read the message, scrawled on it in hurried handwriting. "I'm trapped inside. Help me." Signed off with a shaky hand, "Yours, truly, Lightkeeper Edward Sterling." Days later, the lighthouse stood silent, its light extinguished. A team of investigators stood at the base of the tower, their faces grim. The lighthouse keeper's body was never recovered, and the mystery of his disappearance deepened. Some whispered that he had gone insane, that the isolation had driven him to madness. Others spoke of ancient curses, of restless spirits trapped within the lighthouse walls. As the sun set over the horizon, casting long shadows across the beach, the lead investigator knelt beside the wrecked radio, his gaze fixed on the tangled mess of wires. Suddenly, he straightened up, his eyes widening with realization. He remembered a line from the last transmission, a line that had caught his attention amidst the chaos. "I've tried to call for help, but it's too late." Too late for what? He wondered. He looked up at the darkened windows of the lighthouse, a chill running down his spine. Could the lighthouse keeper's message have held a deeper, more sinister meaning? Had he been trying to warn them of something lurking in the shadows, something that had claimed him and was now waiting within the lighthouse walls? A lone gull cried overhead, its cry echoing the question that now echoed in the investigator's mind. What exactly had happened to the lighthouse keeper? Was he merely a victim of circumstance, or was there something more sinister at play? As the wind whipped around them, carrying with it the scent of salt and decay, the investigators prepared to enter the lighthouse, knowing that whatever secrets lay within, they would never be the same again. That's all for today. If you enjoyed the story, please don't forget to leave us a thumbs up. We'd really appreciate it. And hey, if you haven't already, why not consider subscribing? That way you won't miss out on any of our spine-chilling tailies. Until next time, stay safe, and keep an eye out for any mysterious lighthouses that might be lurking near you. After all, you never know what secrets they might be hiding.